Nobody in Westbrook City Police Department expected much from the dispatcher with trembling hands who volunteered for sniper training. Maya Shun, 28 years old, showed up alone to the tactical range every morning at 5 a.m., her medical file thicker than her personnel record. While veteran officers arrived with custom rifles and steadying equipment, Maya carried only her standard-issue weapon and a worn leather journal filled with handwritten notes. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. You sure you can even hold that thing steady? Officer Jackson. Miller called out one morning, adjusting his tactical scope while his partners snickered. SWAT doesn't have room for someone with your condition. Maya didn't respond. She never did. Instead, she methodically arranged her shooting mat, checked her weapon, and began her morning routine. No fancy stabilizers, no tremor-reducing grips. Just pure concentration and the breathing techniques her neurologist had taught her. The other officers had gotten used to her presence at the range, but they'd never understood her determination. While they swapped stories about their field operations and compared equipment, Maya silently studied wind patterns and practiced her trigger control despite the constant tremors in her hands. She shot differently than everyone else. Each bullet was a lesson in defying her own biology. Each target represented another doctor who'd told her to accept her limitations. "It's like watching someone fight gravity," whispered Officer Lisa Rodriguez to her partner. She shakes setting up the shot, then somehow goes completely still for a split second before firing. It's freaky. What they didn't know was that Maya's presence wasn't just about proving herself. Every morning she practiced wasn't merely about overcoming her condition. It was about fulfilling a promise to her late mother, the department's first female tactical officer, whose career ended after a devastating car accident. Maya had been shooting since she could stand, consistently outperforming expectations despite the essential tremor diagnosis she received at age 12. For 5 years, she'd been applying for the department's tactical response team, and for 5 years, the same note appeared in her file: physical limitations incompatible with precision requirements. That morning, as steam rose from her coffee cup in the cold December air, Maya opened her mother's journal to a page she'd read 1,000 times. Control isn't about never shaking. It's about finding stillness in the chaos. She was about to put that philosophy to the ultimate test. 2 days later, the email arrived. Maya's hands trembled more than usual as she read the subject line: Tactical Response Evaluation, Final Assessment Opportunity. The department's elite crisis response unit was conducting its annual selection process, and despite her previous rejections, Maya's persistent applications had earned her one last chance. "They probably need to formally reject you to close the file," Officer Miller commented when word spread around the station. "At least you'll get some closure." Maya printed the email, folded it carefully, and tucked it into her mother's journal. She had 3 weeks to prepare for an evaluation that no one expected her to pass. That evening, as Maya practiced her trigger control in her small apartment, her phone rang. The caller ID showed Dr. Sarah Williams, her neurologist for the past decade. "I saw your name on the tactical evaluation roster," Dr. Williams said, concern evident in her voice. "Maya, we've discussed this. Your condition is manageable," Maya interrupted, something she rarely did. "My tremors are essential, not degenerative. They don't define what I can achieve. The medication can only do so much," Dr. Williams reminded her. "Under stress, your symptoms will intensify. A tactical situation is nothing but stress. I've developed techniques," Maya insisted, "methods that work with my condition rather than fighting against it." The call ended with the same impasse they'd reached many times before. Dr. Williams couldn't understand why Maya would pursue a career that seemed fundamentally incompatible with her physical limitations. But then, few people understood what drove Maya Chen. The Central Police Training Facility was a sprawling complex on the outskirts of Westbrook City. Its advanced ranges and simulation rooms represented everything Maya had been working toward. As she drove through the security checkpoint in her modest sedan, she watched specialized police vehicles pass by, carrying tactical officers with years of field experience. Maya parked in the visitors section and shouldered her simple gear bag. The rifle case she carried had belonged to her mother, its worn edges a testament to years of service. As she walked toward the registration building, she caught fragments of conversation from other candidates. "Did you see the new stabilization system the feds are using? $5,000, but it practically eliminates human error. I heard Captain Reeves himself is evaluating us today. 20 years in tactical, highest marksmanship scores in department history. Final selection is going to be a hostage scenario in the simulation building. One-shot qualification. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time. So if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story." At the registration desk, Maya presented her department ID to Lieutenant David Foster, the program coordinator. His eyebrows rose slightly when he saw her name. "Officer Chun, you're from Central Dispatch, correct? Not exactly our usual applicant pool." "Yes, sir," Maya responded, keeping her hands carefully folded to minimize the visible tremor. Foster looked down at her file, then back at her. "Says here you've applied before." "Several times, actually. 5 years in a row, sir." "And your condition?" "Is documented in my file, sir. As is my range qualification, which exceeds department standards." Foster glanced around the busy registration area, where other candidates were checking equipment and discussing tactics. "Well," he said finally, "everyone gets the same evaluation. Your assigned quarters are in Building B, Room 204. Orientation begins at 0800 hours. Maya's room was plain but functional. A single bed, a desk, and a small closet. Through the window, she could see the tactical range where tomorrow's evaluations would begin. She unpacked methodically, setting her mother's journal on the nightstand where she could read it before sleep. The familiar routine calmed her hands, reducing the tremors to a barely perceptible vibration. That evening at the candidates' dinner, Maya sat alone, observing the social dynamics around her. Most applicants were from patrol or existing tactical units, their conversations filled with operational stories and equipment specifications. "You must be the dispatcher," a voice said behind her. Maya turned to see Captain James Reeves, a legendary figure in the department whose career had included hostage rescues, counter-terrorism operations, and the highest marksmanship scores on record. "Yes, sir. Maya Chun, Central Dispatch." The captain studied her for a moment. "I knew your mother. Elena Chun was one of the best tactical officers I ever worked with. Before her accident." Maya's hands trembled slightly at the mention of her mother. She placed them flat on the table to steady them. "I'm curious about something, Chun," the captain continued. "Your file says you have an essential tremor condition. Yet you've qualified on the range consistently. How do you manage that?" "Adaptation. Sir, I don't fight the tremor, I work with it. There's a rhythm to it, a pattern I can predict." The captain nodded thoughtfully. "Interesting approach. Your mother was innovative too." He stood to leave, then added, "Good luck tomorrow, officer. Chun, you'll need it." As Maya returned to her room, she passed a group of applicants discussing the next day's events. "The dispatcher won't make it past the first round," Officer Miller said loudly, checking his custom grip. "This isn't answering phones. This is life and death." His training partner, Officer Ramirez, laughed. $10 says she's gone by lunch." "Some people don't know their limitations," Miller replied. Maya kept walking, her mother's words echoing in her mind. "Your greatest strength is that you've never accepted the limitations others place on you." That night, Maya called her regular support person, Dr. Melissa Kim, her mother's former partner, on the tactical team who had become Maya's mentor after her mother's death. "How's it going there, Trembles?" Melissa asked, using the childhood nickname that had once made Maya cry, but now felt like an endearment. "They're betting on when I'll wash out," Maya said quietly. "Of course they are," Melissa replied. "You're an unknown quantity, and cops hate unknowns. Remember what your mom used to say about being underestimated?" Maya smiled for the first time since arriving. "Being underestimated is just leverage you haven't used yet." "Exactly. Now tell me about the setup there." They spent the next hour discussing the facility, the other candidates, and strategies for the evaluations ahead. Melissa had been through the selection process years ago and knew its challenges intimately. "The final test is always the same," Melissa explained. "A hostage scenario with a single-shot qualification. They change the details, but the fundamentals don't change. One shot, high stress, no room for error." "My hands ... Maya began. "Your hands shake, yes. But your mind is steady, and that's what makes the shot. Your mother knew that. Now you need to show them." After the call, Maya sat at the small desk in her room, reviewing her mother's journal. Elena Chun had documented every aspect of her tactical career, from training techniques to operational insights. After her accident, she'd filled the remaining pages with observations about adapting to physical limitations and finding new paths forward. One passage caught Maya's attention. "Perfection isn't about never faltering. It's about finding your center when everything else is in motion." Maya closed the journal and prepared for sleep. Tomorrow would be the first day of evaluations, and she needed to be ready not just physically, but mentally. Her opponents weren't just the other candidates. They were the expectations and assumptions that had followed her throughout her career. The alarm sounded at 5 a.m., though Maya had been awake since 4:30, running through mental preparations. Her morning routine was specific and unchanging. Medication with water, 15 minutes of stretching exercises, 5 minutes of deep breathing, and a review of the day's objectives. Today, her hands were relatively steady, a good sign. The tremors varied in intensity day by day, sometimes hour by hour, affected by stress, fatigue, and a dozen other factors she'd learned to monitor. The first evaluation was scheduled for 900 hours, basic marksmanship at various distances. As Maya headed to the range, she carried not only her equipment, but the weight of being the only candidate from outside conventional enforcement divisions. The tactical range was impressive, covered firing positions, electronic scoring systems, and targets at distances from 25 to 500 yards. Maya chose a position at the far end, away from the clusters of officers already setting up. Captain Reeves addressed the group, his voice carrying across the range. "This evaluation isn't about fancy equipment or who talks the biggest game. It's about one thing. Can you make the shot when it matters? When lives are on the line, everything else is just noise." His eyes swept across the candidates, pausing briefly on Maya. "Today's session will assess your fundamental skills. Each of you will complete a course of fire at increasing distances. This isn't just about hitting the target. It's about consistency, adaptation, and performing under pressure." The evaluation began with standard distances: 25 yards, 50 yards, 75 yards. Most candidates performed well, their groups tight and centered. Maya's approach drew attention immediately. While others fired rapidly, demonstrating speed and efficiency, she took her time with each shot. "What's she doing?" Officer Ramirez asked, watching Maya's methodical process. "She's got a system," another candidate replied. "Watch her hands." Maya's technique was unusual but effective. She would allow her hands to shake, tracking the natural pattern of the tremor, then time her breathing and trigger pull to coincide with the millisecond of relative stillness between tremors. It wasn't conventional, but the results spoke for themselves. Tight groups centered on the target. At 100 yards, the field began to separate. Some candidates struggled with the increased distance, their groups widening. Maya maintained her consistency, each shot a deliberate exercise in timing and control. "Chun's got some skill," Lieutenant Foster remarked to Captain Reeves as they observed the scores. "Unconventional approach, but effective." "We'll see how she handles stress," Reeves replied. "Hitting targets in training is one thing. Making the shot when everything's on the line is another." By midday, Maya had completed the first evaluation with scores that placed her in the top half of candidates, not dominating, but solidly competitive. It was enough to silence the most immediate doubts, though she could still feel the skeptical glances from other officers. During the lunch break, Maya sat alone, reviewing her performance and making notes in her journal. She was so focused that she didn't notice Lieutenant Foster approaching. "Interesting technique you have, Chun," he said, sitting across from her. "I've never seen anyone shoot quite like that." Maya looked up, automatically steadying her hands on the table. "It works with my condition rather than against it. So I see." Foster glanced at her notes. "Your mother used to keep a journal like that." "I worked with her in the early days of the tactical unit. She believed in documentation, learning from every experience." Foster nodded. "This afternoon's evaluation will be different. Dynamic shooting, moving targets, time pressure. Your methodical approach might be challenged." "I've practiced for those conditions, sir. I'm sure you have. But practice and reality have a way of being different." Foster stood to leave. "Just remember, Chun, we're not looking for perfect shooters. We're looking for officers who can adapt when perfection isn't possible." As Foster walked away, Maya returned to her notes. The afternoon would test different skills, pushing her adapted techniques to their limits. But she had prepared for this, developing variations of her approach for different scenarios. The afternoon evaluation was as challenging as Foster had suggested. Candidates moved through a course with multiple firing positions, engaging targets that appeared at random intervals and distances. Speed mattered now, not just accuracy. Maya's approach evolved visibly. Rather than fighting her condition with each shot, she incorporated her tremor into a fluid motion, using the natural movement to scan between targets and timing her shots to the brief moments of stability. Officer Miller, watching from the sidelines, after completing his run, shook his head in disbelief. "She's actually using the shaking to her advantage, like a built-in scanning system." By the end of the day, Maya had surprised everyone, perhaps even herself. Her scores placed her squarely in the middle of the remaining candidates, her unorthodox techniques proving effective even under changing conditions. That evening, as candidates gathered in the common area to discuss the day's events, Maya felt a shift in the atmosphere. The outright dismissal had transformed into cautious curiosity. She wasn't being accepted, not yet, but she was being recognized as a genuine competitor. Captain Reeves addressed the group before dinner. Today separated those who can shoot from those who can shoot under pressure. Tomorrow raises the stakes. Tactical decision-making, threat assessment, and precision under adverse conditions. Some of you won't advance past tomorrow's evaluation. Sleep well. You'll need your focus. In her room that night, Maya reviewed her performance with clinical detachment, identifying areas for improvement and mentally rehearsing adjustments. Her hands shook more than usual, fatigue from the day's exertions taking its toll. Her phone vibrated with a text from Melissa. "Heard you're still in the game. How's the tremor?" "Worse tonight. Tomorrow will be challenging. Your mom had her worst days before her best performances. Something about the body preparing for what matters. Get some sleep, trembles." Maya placed her phone on the nightstand and opened her mother's journal to a passage she'd read countless times. The body knows what's coming before the mind accepts it. The shaking isn't weakness, it's energy looking for purpose. As she drifted toward sleep, Maya reflected on how far she'd come, from a childhood defined by a neurological diagnosis to this moment. Competing for a position everyone said was impossible for someone with her condition. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for tonight, she had already defied expectations. The second day of evaluation dawned with unexpected complications. Maya woke to find her tremor particularly pronounced, her medication seemingly less effective than usual. The stress and exertion had triggered what her doctors called a symptomatic episode, periods when her condition temporarily worsened. She modified her morning routine, adding extra stretching and breathing exercises designed to calm her nervous system. Progress was minimal. Today would require adaptation beyond what she'd practiced. At the briefing, Captain Reeves outlined the day's evaluation. Today tests your judgment as much as your marksmanship. You'll face scenarios requiring threat assessment, target discrimination, and decision-making under pressure. The course includes environmental challenges, limited visibility, awkward positioning, and distractions. His eyes moved across the candidates. In the field, you don't get perfect conditions. You get what you get, and lives depend on your ability to perform anyway. The evaluation course was set up in the tactical building, a maze-like structure with rooms and corridors designed to simulate urban environments. Candidates would move through individually, encountering scenarios requiring split-second decisions about when and whether to shoot. Maya was scheduled in the middle of the rotation, giving her time to observe, but also building anticipation. She watched the first few candidates emerge from the course, some confident, others visibly shaken by the challenges inside. When Officer Miller completed the course, he approached Maya with unexpected candor. The third room has a hostage scenario with bad lighting. The fifth room forces you to shoot from an unstable platform. Thought you should know. Maya studied him, surprised by the information sharing. Thank you. Why tell me? Miller shrugged. Figured your challenge is just tough enough with the, He gestured vaguely toward her hands. Besides, tactical is about the team, not just individual showing off. If you make it, you should. Make it fair and square. When Maya's turn came, her hands were shaking visibly as she entered the course. Lieutenant Foster, who would be following her through to evaluate, noticed immediately. Officer Chun, are you fit to continue? Your condition seems pronounced today. I'm operational, sir, Maya replied, using the department's standard response. The tremor is within manageable parameters. Foster looked skeptical but nodded. Proceed when ready. The course began with straightforward scenarios, distinguishing between armed and unarmed subjects, identifying threats in a crowd. Maya moved methodically, her training compensating for her trembling hands. The third room, as Miller had warned, presented a hostage situation in poor lighting. Maya entered low, scanning the environment. Two figures were visible, one clearly, holding the other with what appeared to be a weapon. Maya's hands shook as she raised her weapon, the tremor making target acquisition difficult. She took a breath, then did something unexpected. She lowered to one knee, bracing her elbow against her leg for stability. The position wasn't textbook, but it provided the support she needed. The shot was clean, striking the hostage. Take her target in the designated zone while avoiding the hostage. Unconventional stance, Foster noted, but effective adaptation. The fifth room presented the anticipated challenge, a shooting platform that shifted unpredictably, simulating unstable terrain. For most candidates, this tested their ability to adjust stance and timing. For Maya, it presented a unique problem. Her techniques relied on predicting her tremor's pattern, but the moving platform introduced random motion that interfered with that prediction. She hesitated, studying the platform and targets. Lieutenant Foster watched with interest as Maya approached the challenge. Instead of fighting both the platform and her tremor, Maya synchronized with the platform's movement, incorporating its rhythm into her shooting process. Her first shot missed slightly, but she adjusted, finding a harmonized pattern between her body's tremor and the external motion. Her next 3 shots hit their marks. "Remarkable adaptation," Foster commented. As they exited the room, "You're working with the instability rather than fighting it." "That's the whole point," Maya replied. "You can't eliminate all variables. You have to incorporate them." By the end of the course, Maya was physically exhausted but mentally energized. Her approach, adapting to limitations rather than being defeated by them, had proven effective. Even under challenging conditions, the day's results placed her, surprisingly, in the top third of candidates. Her technical scores weren't always the highest, but her decision-making and adaptability ratings were exceptional. As candidates gathered for the evening briefing, Maya noticed a subtle change in how others interacted with her. The skepticism wasn't gone, but it was tempered with professional curiosity. Several officers asked about her techniques, particularly her approach to the unstable platform. Captain Reeves addressed the group with characteristic directness. Today separated those who can follow procedures from those who can think beyond them. Tomorrow, only the top 12 candidates will advance to the final evaluation. He paused, his gaze moving across the room. The final test is what matters. One scenario, one opportunity, one shot. Everything you've demonstrated so far gets you to that moment. What you do in that moment determines whether you join this unit. As Maya returned to her room, she was intercepted by Dr. Williams, who had apparently arrived at the facility during the day's evaluations. "Your heart rate data is concerning," the neurologist said without preamble, holding up her tablet showing Maya's medical telemetry. "The monitoring system in your fitness tracker is showing extended periods of elevated stress and tremor intensity." "I'm managing it," Maya insisted. "You're pushing your limits, which is exactly what we agreed you wouldn't do. This level of stress could trigger a severe episode." "Dr. Williams, I've made it through 2 days of evaluations that everyone said would be impossible for me. I'm not stopping now." The neurologist's expression softened slightly. "Maya, I understand your determination, but my concern is medical, not personal. Your condition has never defined what I can achieve," Maya finished. "Tomorrow is the final cut before the ultimate test." "I need to be on that list," Dr. Williams sighed. "At least take this supplemental medication tonight. It might help control the tremor for tomorrow." Maya agreed, though reluctantly. The stronger medication would reduce her tremor, but might also dull her reflexes and mental acuity, a trade-off she'd have to manage carefully. That night, Maya called Melissa again, seeking perspective as much as encouragement. "They're down to selecting the final 12 tomorrow," Maya explained. "I'm currently ranked 10th, but it's tight. Your mother was 11th going into her final day," Melissa recalled. "She said it was the perfect position, good enough to advance, not prominent enough to draw extra scrutiny. My tremor was bad today. Dr. Williams is here, monitoring my telemetry." Williams never understood Elena's determination, and she doesn't understand yours. She sees limitations where your mother saw challenges to overcome. They talked for nearly an hour, discussing strategies for the next day's evaluation and the importance of managing both physical symptoms and mental pressure. "Remember," Melissa said before ending the call, "tactical selection isn't just about being the best shooter. It's about proving you can solve problems no one else can solve, in ways no one else would think to try." After the call, Maya reviewed her mother's journal, focusing on entries about adapting to unexpected challenges. Alina Chen had documented dozens of tactical situations where standard approaches failed, requiring creative solutions under pressure. One passage particularly resonated. "The perfect shot isn't about perfect conditions. It's about perfect adaptation to imperfect conditions." Maya closed the journal and prepared for sleep, knowing that tomorrow would determine whether she would advance to the final test. The ultimate evaluation that would either fulfill her mother's legacy or confirm what so many had believed about her limitations. The medication helped her sleep, but morning brought a complex mixture of reduced tremor and slight mental fogginess, exactly the trade-off she had feared. Maya adjusted her morning routine to include additional cognitive exercises, working to sharpen her focus while maintaining the medication's physical benefits. Day 3's evaluation was designed to be comprehensive, combining elements of marksmanship, tactical decision-making, and physical performance under stress. Candidates would complete an obstacle course, then immediately transition to a shooting evaluation while their heart rates were elevated and fine motor control compromised. Captain Reeves was direct in his briefing. Today tests whether you can perform when your body is telling you it's reached its limits. In the field, you don't get to call a timeout because you're tired or stressed. You perform, or people die. The evaluation began with a grueling physical course, climbing walls, navigating tunnels, carrying weighted equipment. For most candidates, the challenge was primarily physical endurance. For Maya, it represented a direct assault on her body's ability to control her condition. When her turn came, Maya approached the course with a strategy different from other candidates. Rather than pushing for speed, she maintained a steady, controlled pace, preserving energy and focus for the shooting portion to follow. Officer Ramirez, who had completed the course earlier, watched with professional interest. She's pacing differently than everyone else, not trying to beat the clock. Smart, responded Officer Diaz, another candidate. She knows her limitation isn't endurance, it's control after exertion. Maya completed the obstacle course with a respectable but unexceptional time. As she transitioned to the shooting range, her hands were shaking significantly from the exertion, but her breathing remained controlled and her focus intact. The shooting evaluation was deliberately designed to test precision under physical stress, multiple target distances, positional requirements, and time pressure combined to challenge even the most skilled marksman. Maya settled into position, her approach once again drawing attention. While other candidates fought to control their breathing and stabilize after the physical exertion, she incorporated her elevated heart rate into her shooting rhythm, timing her shots to synchronize with her pulse. Her first series was solid, not perfect, but demonstrating control under conditions specifically designed to disrupt it. As she progressed through more challenging positions and distances, Maya's adaptability became increasingly evident. She's not fighting her body, Lieutenant Foster observed to Captain Reeves as they evaluated her performance. She's working with it, even in its compromised state. The question, Reeves replied, is whether that approach works when everything is on the line. Adaptation is valuable, but some situations demand perfection, not just clever compensation. By the end of the day, the final rankings were clear. Maya had maintained her position, finishing 10th among the candidates and securing a place in tomorrow's final evaluation. Her unconventional techniques had proven effective even under conditions specifically designed to exploit her limitations. At the evening briefing, Captain Reeves addressed the remaining 12 candidates with characteristic intensity. Tomorrow's final evaluation is unlike anything you've experienced so far. One scenario, one opportunity, one shot. Your entire selection process comes down to how you perform in a single moment of maximum pressure. He paused, his gaze moving across the group. We're not looking for candidates who are perfect. We're looking for candidates who can achieve perfection when it matters most, regardless of circumstances, limitations, or pressure. As the briefing concluded, the details of the final evaluation remained undisclosed, a deliberate strategy to maintain the pressure of uncertainty. Candidates dispersed to prepare in their own ways, the tension palpable. Maya found herself approached by Officer Miller, whose initial dismissal had gradually transformed into reluctant respect. You defied the odds, Chen, he acknowledged. Making it to the final 12 with your condition, It's impressive. Thank you, Maya replied simply. But tomorrow? Miller hesitated. The final evaluation is designed to break candidates. Not just test them, break them. Make them face something they don't think they can do. I've been facing that my entire life, Maya responded. Miller nodded slowly. Fair point. Just be prepared for something beyond what you've practiced. 4. As Maya returned to her room, she found Dr. Williams waiting outside her door, medical tablet in hand. Your readings today were alarming, the neurologist began. Heart rate sustained above threshold for extended periods, tremor intensity. Readings well into severe classification. But I performed, Maya pointed out. I qualified for tomorrow's final evaluation. At what cost? Dr. Williams countered. Maya, I've supported your career as much as medically responsible, but this pushes beyond those boundaries. The final evaluation could trigger a severe episode. That's my risk to take. Not entirely. Dr. Williams' expression was troubled. As your physician, I have an ethical obligation. If I believe you're medically unfit for duty, the implication hung in the air between them. You would report that? Maya asked quietly. After everything I've accomplished these past 3 days? Dr. Williams sighed heavily. I'm giving you a choice. Withdraw voluntarily, citing medical concerns, or I'll be forced to submit my professional assessment, which would end not just this opportunity, but any future one, Maya realized. A permanent note in my file. I'm sorry, Maya, but my primary concern is your health. And mine is honoring a promise, Maya replied. To myself and to my mother's memory. Dr. Williams seemed to wrestle with her professional obligations and personal sympathy. One compromise. Take the maximum medication dosage tonight. If your morning readings show improvement, I'll withhold my assessment until after the evaluation. It wasn't ideal, but it was the only path forward. Maya agreed, though she knew the stronger medication would further impact her reflexes and cognitive processing, another variable to adapt to in tomorrow's critical test. That night, after taking the medication, Maya called Melissa one final time. They're trying to disqualify me medically, she explained. Williams is concerned about a severe episode during the final evaluation. Your mother faced the same threat after her first injury, Melissa recalled. Department doctors wanted to ground her permanently. How did she handle it? She made them a deal, judge her on performance, not prognosis. Either she could do the job or she couldn't. The rest was just speculation. They discussed strategies for managing the increased medication while maintaining the focus needed for tomorrow's evaluation. Maya knew she was accepting significant risk, pushing her body's limits, while partially compromised by medication designed to control the very condition she needed to overcome. After the call, Maya opened her mother's journal to the final pages, entries made after the accident that ended Elena Chun's tactical career. Her mother had written extensively about redefining success, adapting to new limitations, and finding strength in vulnerability. The final entry caught Maya's attention. The department measures readiness by how few limitations you have. The real measure is how well you perform despite the limitations you carry. That's the difference between being qualified and being exceptional. Maya closed the journal and prepared for sleep, knowing that tomorrow would either validate everything she had worked for or confirm what so many had believed about her limitations. Either way, she would face it on her own terms, adapting as she always had. Tomorrow, Westbrook City would discover what determination and adaptation could achieve when conventional approaches failed. The final test awaited, and Maya Chun, trembling hands and all, was ready to show what was possible when necessity drove innovation and courage overcame limitation. The final evaluation day dawned with the city in crisis. Westbrook's emergency alert system activated at 5:30 a.m., jolting candidates from preparation to potential deployment. Captain Reeves gathered them in the briefing room, his expression grave as news footage played on multiple screens. "This is no longer an evaluation scenario," he announced, silencing murmurs. At 0400 hours, armed subjects took control of Westbrook Tower, the city's tallest building. Hostages are confirmed on the 43rd floor observation deck. Crisis negotiators are engaged, but the situation is deteriorating. The room fell silent as tactical satellite images appeared on screen. Westbrook Tower dominated the downtown skyline, its distinctive glass observation deck visible even from satellite distance. "This is now a live operation," Reeves continued. "Our tactical units are deploying, but we're integrating the final phase of your evaluation into the actual response. Each of you will be assigned to a support role with operational teams." He paused, his gaze sweeping across the candidates. "For one of you, this will also be your final evaluation. Intelligence indicates a potential suicide vest on the primary subject. If negotiations fail, we may have one opportunity for a precision shot from extreme distance. The observation deck's construction makes this particularly challenging." Lieutenant Foster stepped forward with additional details. "The glass on the observation deck is specialized material, ballistic resistant, and sectioned with steel reinforcement. There's only one potential shot line that could penetrate without deflection, through a specific maintenance access panel that provides a clean line of sight to the primary target area." The briefing continued with operational assignments. Most candidates were distributed to perimeter positions or equipment, support roles, challenging but within conventional parameters. When only Maya remained unassigned, Captain Reeves addressed her directly. "Officer Chun, your evaluation assignment is unique. You'll accompany me to the tactical command post. If the order for precision fire is given, you'll be evaluated on your ability to determine whether the shot is possible, and if so, how it should be approached." The assignment was unexpected, an analytical role rather than an operational one. Maya understood immediately that this was Dr. Williams' influence at work, keeping her from direct engagement while allowing her to complete the evaluation. As candidates dispersed to their assignments, Maya gathered her equipment with controlled movements. The maximum medication dose had reduced her tremor significantly, but at a cost. Her reactions felt sluggish, her thinking slightly dulled. It was a trade-off she had anticipated, but couldn't fully prepare for. Dr. Williams intercepted her before she could leave. "Your morning readings show improvement, but you're still at risk for a severe episode under stress. Captain Reeves has been briefed on your medical status." "You told him I couldn't perform," Maya stated flatly. "I told him your condition required careful assignment consideration," the neurologist clarified. "The analytical role is a compromise that allows you to complete the evaluation without unnecessary medical risk." Maya said nothing, securing her gear and moving toward the transport vehicles. Her mind was already working through the implications of her assignment and the information from the briefing. The observation deck, the specialized glass, the maintenance panel. She was mentally calculating angles and possibilities even as she boarded the command vehicle. The tactical command post was established 6 blocks from Westbrook Tower, in a secure government building with direct line of sight to the crisis location. As Maya entered the command center, the atmosphere of controlled urgency was palpable. Multiple agencies coordinated their responses, with Captain Reeves integrating directly with the incident commander. Maya was directed to the tactical assessment station, where real-time feeds from various cameras provided comprehensive views of the situation. She focused immediately on the observation deck, studying its construction and the positions of hostages and captors, visible through the glass. Lieutenant Foster appeared at her side, providing additional details. "The maintenance panel they mentioned is here," he indicated on a structural diagram. "It's a composite material section designed for cleaning equipment access. Significantly less deflection potential than the surrounding glass. What's the distance to target? Maya asked, already calculating variables. 850 yards from the nearest viable position, Foster replied. Wind variable due to the urban canyon effect between buildings, temperature stable. Humidity rising. Emma Chun stepped onto the rugged training grounds of Fort Blackwater with boots that seemed too big for her 5'2" frame. Her petite body was almost swallowed by the standard issue fatigues that hung loose despite alterations. At 28, she looked nothing like the towering soldiers who dominated the elite rescue training facility. No one could have guessed that this small woman they dismissed would soon carry 3 wounded men to safety through conditions that broke even the strongest recruits. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. Emma hadn't been back to a military installation in 3 years. Not since she'd walked away from her promising career after a mission that left her questioning everything. Today, she was here as an observer, accompanying her friend Dr. Nadia Wright, a trauma specialist invited to assess the facility's medical evacuation protocols. Fort Blackwater wasn't just any training center. It was the premier combat rescue facility, where the military's most physically imposing soldiers came to earn their elite status. Everything about Fort Blackwater screamed strength and power. The obstacle courses were designed to challenge even Olympic athletes. The medical simulation buildings recreated the most challenging extraction scenarios imaginable. The training equipment cost millions, and the soldiers selected for the program were chosen primarily for their physical capabilities. Most stood over 6 feet tall with builds that intimidated at first glance. Their gear was cutting edge, their muscles were sculpted to perfection, and their confidence matched their imposing stature. Emma carried only a small backpack containing a notebook, water bottle, and a few protein bars. She walked with quiet confidence, her eyes unconsciously scanning the facility, noting exit routes, calculating distances, identifying potential hazards. Old habits never really disappeared. The stares began immediately. A cluster of trainees near the equipment shed didn't even try to lower their voices. "Who let the high school student in?" one said, his voice carrying across the yard. "Bring your daughter to work day was last month." A woman with broad shoulders and arms that could probably bench press Emma's entire body looked her up and down. "What's she going to do in an emergency? Ask the enemy to please stop shooting while she finds a step stool." The mockery wasn't subtle or kind. To them, Emma was an anomaly, a disruption to their understanding of what a rescue specialist should look like. They saw her small stature and automatically filed her under incapable. The jokes continued as Emma stood quietly, observing the training preparations without reaction. "Maybe she's here to test the child-sized dummies," another trainee suggested. Generating a burst of laughter from his companions, Emma didn't speak or defend herself. She simply stood there, composed and still, watching as the training teams assembled their gear for the day's exercises. The facility kept watching her too, judging her, measuring her against their narrow definition of capability, and ultimately dismissing her. They had no idea that the woman they saw as insignificant would soon become the most important person any of them would. "Remember." Dr. Wright emerged from the command building and approached Emma with an apologetic smile. "Sorry about the delay. Command briefing ran long." "I see you've been making friends," she added sarcastically, noticing the not-so-subtle glances from the trainees. "Nothing I haven't heard before," Emma replied, her voice calm and measured. "What's on the agenda today?" "They're running extraction simulations in the mountain terrain course. Multiple casualties, hostile conditions, the works. We'll be observing from the command center." Dr. Wright gestured toward a building with tinted windows, overlooking the massive training grounds. As they walked, Emma felt the weight of dozens of eyes following her. The whispers continued, some amused, others dismissive. One instructor even chuckled openly as she passed. Emma's expression never changed. She'd faced worse than playground bullies in her career. Inside the command center, screens displayed various angles of the training course. Rescue teams were gearing up, checking equipment, and reviewing extraction protocols. Emma recognized the routine, the methodical preparation that meant the difference between life and death in real-world scenarios. On the largest screen, Lieutenant Marcus Davidson was briefing his team, his 6'4" frame dominating the huddle of equally imposing soldiers. "That's their star performer," Dr. Wright explained, nodding toward Davidson. "Former football player, built like a tank, can carry 200 pounds of gear uphill without breaking a sweat. Command thinks he's their next great leader." Emma studied him silently, noting his confident stance, the way his team responded to him, the slight hitch in his preparation routine that spoke of overconfidence rather than thoroughness. Colonel Patricia Rivera entered the command center, her crisp uniform and ramrod posture demanding immediate respect. Her eyes landed on Emma, narrowed slightly, then moved to Dr. Wright. "Doctor, glad you could join us. The observation deck is prepared for your assessment." Her voice was professionally cordial, but carried an edge that suggested she viewed this entire assessment as an unnecessary formality. Dr. Wright nodded. "Thank you, Colonel. This is Emma Chun, my assistant for today's observation." Rivera's gaze returned to Emma, traveling from her small frame to her unassuming appearance, making no attempt to hide her skepticism. "Miss Chun, this is a restricted facility. Observers must remain in designated areas at all times. This is not a spectator sport. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story." "Understood, Colonel," Emma replied simply. The Colonel's eyebrow raised slightly at Emma's calm response, as if she'd expected nervousness or intimidation. Finding neither, she turned back to the screens. "Teams will deploy in 15 minutes. Weather conditions on the mountain have deteriorated faster than anticipated. We're looking at heavy rain, poor visibility, and temperatures dropping below what was forecast." She spoke to the room at large, though her words seemed particularly directed at Dr. Wright. "These are the conditions our people train for. Real rescues don't wait for sunny days." Dr. Wright nodded. "We're not here to interfere, Colonel, only to observe and assess." The mockery continues as Emma and Dr. Wright make their way to the observation deck, a raised platform at the edge of the base camp that offers a clear view of the mountain training grounds. The rain has started, light at first but steadily increasing in intensity. Teams are finalizing their equipment checks, double wrapping sensitive gear against the weather. Lieutenant Davidson spots Emma as she takes her position at the observation rail. He nudges his second-in-command, nodding in her direction with an amused expression. "Hey, Tiny," he calls out, his voice carrying easily across the staging area. "You might want to head inside. Wouldn't want you to blow away in the wind." His team laughs on cue, the sound rippling across the yard. Emma remains still, her expression unchanging as she continues to observe the preparations. "I'm serious," Davidson continues, encouraged by his team's reaction. "We've got 3 dummy casualties up there that weigh more than you do. One good gust and you'll end up in the next county." More laughter. Emma shifts her weight slightly, adjusting her stance against the increasing wind, but says nothing. Her silence seems to irritate Davidson more than any response would have. "What's the matter, Short Stack? Can't hear me from up there?" He cups his hands around his mouth in an exaggerated gesture. "Need me to lift you up so you can see better?" Dr. Wright steps forward, her professional demeanor cracking slightly. "Lieutenant, perhaps you should focus on your mission preparations rather than harassing observers." Davidson's smile doesn't falter. "Just concern for safety, ma'am." She looks like she belongs in middle school, not a combat rescue facility. Emma places a hand on Dr. Wright's arm, a gentle request to let it go. She's heard worse, much worse, and responded with the same steady silence. She's learned that some battles aren't worth fighting, especially against those who've already decided what you're capable of based on appearances, not another team leader. Sergeant Maya Ortiz approaches Davidson with a disapproving expression. "Cut it out, Mark. You're embarrassing yourself." She glances at Emma with something that might be respect, or at least professional courtesy. "Sorry about him." "Some people never outgrow high school." Davidson shrugs, unrepentant. "Just having some fun, Ortiz. Not my fault they sent us a pocket-sized observer." Ortiz shakes her head and returns to her team, clearly uncomfortable with Davidson's behavior, but unwilling to challenge him further. The power dynamics are obvious. Davidson is the golden boy, the one expected to lead this exercise to perfect completion. Few are willing to risk his displeasure. As the teams begin moving toward their deployment positions, a trainee with Rodriguez stitched on his uniform breaks away momentarily. Passing near Emma, he holds out a child-sized raincoat, bright yellow, and clearly borrowed from the facility's family visitor supplies. "Here," he says loudly enough for his teammates to hear. "This might fit you better. Don't want you catching cold out here with the grown-ups." "Doctor, your medical assessment?" Dr. Williams looked conflicted. Officer Chun's condition presents significant challenges for precision marksmanship. However, she added reluctantly, her performance throughout the evaluation has demonstrated exceptional adaptive capability. From a strictly medical perspective, I cannot recommend this course of action, but I also cannot definitively state it's impossible. The captain turned back to Maya. "The lives of 23 civilians depend on this decision, Officer Chun. Are you certain?" Maya's hands trembled visibly, but her gaze was unwavering. "Yes, sir, I can make this shot." The next 4 minutes unfolded with controlled urgency. Maya was equipped and escorted to a tactical vehicle while Captain Reeves coordinated the necessary repositioning with on-site teams. Dr. Williams provided a modified dose of medication, enough to take the edge off her tremor without dulling her responses. As the vehicle sped toward the newly identified position, Maya mentally rehearsed the approach. The northeastern maintenance panel would require a shot from the adjacent parking structure at an extreme upward angle. The polymer insert provided minimal room for error, an 8-inch target at over 900 yards. Officer Miller was waiting at the deployment point, surprisingly present as part of the perimeter team. "Chun," he acknowledged as she exited the vehicle. "They briefed us on the approach. It's beyond unconventional." "So am I," Maya replied simply, checking her equipment. Miller helped her navigate to the designated position, the northwest corner of the parking structure's top level, which provided the necessary angle to the tower's observation deck. "The wind's swirling between the buildings," he noted. "Completely unpredictable patterns." "I'm not going to fight the wind," Maya responded. Setting up her position, "I'm going to work with it." The setup was methodical despite the time pressure. Maya arranged her equipment with practiced efficiency, her hands trembling but her movements purposeful. She calibrated her scope, checked her ammunition, and established communication with the command post. "Command, this is Chun, in position and preparing for shot assessment." Captain Reeves's voice came through clearly. "Understood, Chen. Be advised, negotiation team reports subject is making final preparations. Estimated window for intervention is less than 3 minutes." Maya settled into position, aligning her sights with the observation deck nearly 1,000 yards distant. Through her scope, she could see the small polymer insert in the maintenance panel, a tiny circle of different material amid the larger glass and metal construction. Beyond it, partially visible, was the primary subject, surrounded by hostages, but momentarily positioned in a way that created a narrow shot line through the panel. Maya began her breathing routine, allowing her body to establish its natural rhythm. Her hands trembled against the rifle, but instead of fighting the movement, she observed it, feeling its pattern and timing. The tremor had a predictable cadence, not elimination, but adaptation. "Command, this is Chun. I have visual confirmation." Through the northeastern panel. Subject is visible, but the shot window is narrow. The panel's composition will create approximately 2-4 inches of drift at this distance. I can compensate. "Understood, Chen," Reeves responded. "What's your confidence assessment?" Maya took another measured breath, continuing to synchronize with her body's natural movement. 80% with optimal timing. I need to coordinate the shot with both my physiological pattern and the subject's movement. Proceed when ready, Chun. You have tactical authorization. The world narrowed to the view through her scope. Maya's perception heightened, time seeming to slow as she integrated multiple variables simultaneously. Her tremor created a predictable pattern of movement across the target area. The subject's position shifted slightly, but regularly as he gestured to hostages. The wind created a subtle but discernible effect on nearby flags visible through her scope. Maya didn't fight these variables. She synchronized with them, finding the harmonics between her body's movement, the environmental factors, and the target's pattern. It wasn't about eliminating variables. It was about making them work together. "Taking the shot in 10 seconds, she communicated, her voice remarkably steady despite her trembling hands. She continued her breathing, feeling the familiar rhythm of her heart. The tremor moved her sights in a predictable pattern across the target area. Maya tracked the movement, not resisting but anticipating, calculating the precise moment when all variables would align. 3 factors needed perfect synchronization: her tremor pattern reaching its minimal amplitude point, the subject moving into optimal position, visible through the polymer insert, and the wind pattern reaching a momentary equilibrium between gusts. Maya didn't need stillness. She needed perfect timing. The moment arrived with crystalline clarity. Maya squeezed the trigger not during an absence of tremor, but at the precise instant when her natural movement, the target's position, and the environmental conditions aligned in perfect harmony. The rifle fired, the sound echoing across the urban landscape. Through her scope, Maya witnessed the result with surreal clarity. The bullet passed precisely through the center of the polymer insert, continuing its trajectory without deflection. The primary subject dropped instantly. No explosion followed. Tactical teams moved immediately, securing the observation deck and evacuating hostages. "Command, this is Chun. Shot complete. Target neutralized. No detonation." The radio exploded with confirmation and coordination communications as the operation shifted to its resolution phase. Maya maintained her position, following protocol, until formally relieved, her hands still trembling but her mind perfectly clear. Officer Miller appeared at her side, his expression a mixture of disbelief and newfound respect. "That shot was impossible," he stated simply. "No," Maya corrected, beginning to disassemble her equipment. "It was just improbable until someone approached it differently." The aftermath unfolded with the controlled chaos typical of major tactical operations. Hostages were evacuated and processed through medical triage. The scene was secured and investigated. Tactical teams debriefed and stood down. Maya was escorted back to the command post where Captain Reeves waited with Lieutenant Foster and Dr. Williams. The command center had shifted from crisis management to operational resolution, the tension replaced with focused professionalism. "Officer Chun," Captain Reeves acknowledged her arrival. "Preliminary confirmation indicates a shot placement of exceptional precision under extraordinary circumstances. The tactical team reports the bullet passed through the polymer insert with minimal deflection, resulting in immediate target neutralization." Maya nodded, her hand still showing the tremor that had been her constant companion throughout life. "Thank you, sir. I've been in tactical operations for 27 years. Reeves continued. I've never seen a shot executed under those conditions with that level of precision. By all conventional standards, what you accomplished should have been impossible. Conventional standards didn't account for unconventional approaches, Maya replied simply. Dr. Williams stepped forward, medical tablet in hand. Your telemetry during the operation was remarkable. Your tremor pattern showed consistent amplitude throughout, but you somehow timed the shot to synchronize perfectly with your physiological rhythm. That's been my approach from the beginning, Maya explained. Not fighting my condition, but incorporating it into a comprehensive system. The tremor has a pattern. Once you understand the pattern, you can work with it rather than against it. Captain Reeves exchanged glances with Lieutenant Foster, then addressed Maya formally. Officer Chun, in my capacity as selection officer for the Tactical Response Unit, I am authorized to inform you that you have successfully completed the final evaluation. Your performance today demonstrated exceptional skill, judgment, and adaptability. Under extreme conditions, he extended his hand. Welcome to the unit, Officer Chun. Maya accepted the handshake, her trembling hand meeting his steady one, a visual representation of the journey she had undertaken and the barriers she had overcome. There will be administrative procedures, Foster added. Medical waivers, specialized training protocols, equipment modifications. But those are details. The fundamental decision is made. Dr. Williams appeared conflicted but professional. I'll work with the department medical team to establish appropriate monitoring and support protocols. Your approach challenges conventional medical assumptions about essential tremor limitations. As the immediate aftermath continued around them, Captain Reeves drew Maya aside for a more private conversation. Your mother would be proud, he said quietly. Alina always believed that limitations were just opportunities for innovation. She told me once that the department's greatest weakness was assuming there was only one right way to accomplish a mission. She taught me that, Maya acknowledged. In her journal, after the accident, she wrote about redefining capability. After everything changed for her. And now you've redefined it for the entire department, Reeves concluded. That shot will change how we approach precision fire tactics, how we evaluate candidate capabilities, and how we understand the relationship between physical conditions and operational effectiveness. The day ended not with celebration, but with quiet professional acknowledgement. Maya returned to her assigned quarters at the training facility, her body exhausted, but her mind alert with the implications of what had transpired. On her bed, she found a small package with a note from Melissa. Your mother would have loved to see this day. She always said you'd find your own way to make the impossible shot. This belongs to you now. Inside was Elena Chun's tactical unit badge preserved after her medical retirement years ago. Maya held it in her trembling hands, feeling the weight of legacy and future possibility equally. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, specialized training adaptations, equipment modifications, protocol development for her unique approach. The path ahead would not be easy, but the fundamental barrier had been broken. Not just for her, but potentially for others who had been defined by their limitations rather than their capabilities. As Maya prepared for sleep, she opened her mother's journal to add her own entry, the first she had ever written in the pages her mother had filled. Her hands shook as she wrote, the trembling visible in each letter, but the words were steady and clear. Today, I learned that the impossible shot isn't about perfect conditions or perfect abilities. It's about perfect integration of imperfect elements. The tremor that everyone saw as my greatest weakness became the rhythm that guided my greatest strength. Sometimes saving others begins with accepting yourself, not as you wish you could be, but exactly as you are. The Westbrook City Tribune headline read, Impossible Shot Saves 23 Lives, above a photograph of the Westbrook Tower observation deck. The article detailed the dramatic hostage situation and its resolution. through unprecedented tactical precision, but omitted the shooter's identity, citing department security protocols. For most of the city's residents, the crisis was already fading into the background of daily life. For Maya Chun, it marked only the beginning. 3 weeks after the incident, Maya stood in the department's specialized training facility, facing a challenge unlike any in her previous experience. The tactical unit's custom shooting range featured programmable targets, variable environmental conditions, and comprehensive performance analytics. Today, it also included a team of specialists from 3 different disciplines, all focused on understanding her methodology. Officer Chun, could you demonstrate your approach to target acquisition under stress conditions? Dr. Reynolds, the department's performance specialist, adjusted monitoring equipment attached to Maya's arms and torso. We're particularly interested in how you compensate for the tremor during initial sight alignment. Maya positioned herself at the firing line, conscious of the multiple cameras recording her every movement. Beside Dr. Reynolds stood Captain Reeves and Lieutenant Foster, along with 2 equipment specialists from the department's technical division. All watched with professional curiosity as Maya began her demonstration. My approach isn't about eliminating the tremor, she explained, allowing them to see her hands shake as she raised her weapon. It's about integrating it into a comprehensive system. She demonstrated her sight acquisition technique, narrating each element. I don't try to maintain a perfectly steady aim on the target. Instead, I track the natural pattern of my tremor across the target area, identifying the rhythm and predictable moments when alignment occurs naturally. The performance specialists exchanged glances as their equipment recorded data. Maya's approach contradicted fundamental marksmanship principles that emphasized stability above all else. Yet her results were undeniable. It's counterintuitive, Dr. Reynolds observed. Traditional training focuses on minimizing movement. You're essentially using the movement itself as part of your targeting system. Exactly, Maya confirmed. The tremor has consistent patterns under specific conditions. Once you understand those patterns, you can anticipate moments of optimal alignment rather than fighting for constant stability. The demonstration continued for nearly 3 hours, with Maya explaining her methodology across various distances and conditions. The specialists documented everything, occasionally interrupting with questions or requests for clarification. We need to develop a formal training protocol, Lieutenant Foster concluded as the session ended. Officer Chun's approach has implications beyond her individual case. This could potentially help shooters dealing with various physical limitations, combat stress, or environmental challenges. Captain Reeves nodded in agreement. Chun, I want you to work with Dr. Reynolds to document your methodology in detail. We'll need to integrate this into the unit's training program. There's also the equipment aspect, added technical specialist Zhang. Standard issue tactical equipment is designed around traditional stability principles. Officer Chun's approach would benefit from customized solutions. The following weeks brought a whirlwind of development activities. Maya divided her time between operational training with the tactical unit and specialized sessions documenting her methodology. Dr. Reynolds and his team created sophisticated models of her approach, identifying the underlying principles that made it effective. It's fundamentally about rhythmic integration, Dr. Reynolds explained during a progress briefing. Officer Chun doesn't achieve exceptional results despite her tremor. In some ways, she achieves them because of it. The tremor creates a predictable pattern that she's internalized, so completely that she can anticipate precisely when alignment will occur. The technical division developed prototype equipment modifications based on these insights, specialized grips that worked with natural hand movement rather than trying to eliminate it, scopes with enhanced tracking capabilities, and sensor systems that could help identify optimal firing rhythms. 6 weeks after joining the tactical unit, Maya faced her first public recognition during a closed department ceremony. Chief Wilson presented her with the Distinguished Service Medal for her actions during the Westbrook Tower incident, the department's highest honor for exceptional performance in the line of duty. Officer Chun's actions demonstrated extraordinary skill and courage, the chief stated during the presentation. More importantly, they challenged our assumptions about what's possible in tactical operations. Her approach to overcoming perceived limitations will influence department training and procedures for years to come. Maya accepted the medal with mixed emotions. The public recognition felt uncomfortably at odds with her private nature, but she recognized its importance in changing perceptions about officers with non-standard physical conditions. After the ceremony, Officer Miller approached her with uncharacteristic hesitation. "Chun, I owe you an apology," he said directly. "I judged your capabilities based on assumptions rather than performance." "I was wrong. We all make assumptions," Maya replied. "The important thing is being willing to reconsider them when evidence suggests otherwise." Miller nodded. "The unit's different since you joined. People are rethinking a lot of things we took for granted, not just about physical conditions, but about standard approaches generally. It's good. Uncomfortable sometimes, but good." This conversation represented a broader shift within the tactical unit. Initial skepticism had evolved into professional curiosity and increasingly genuine respect. Maya's methodology was proving effective not just for her unique circumstances, but as an alternative approach with wider applications. 2 months after joining the unit, Maya faced her next significant challenge, her first deployment as primary precision shooter for a planned tactical operation. The target was a suspected weapons trafficking location with high-risk configuration, multiple buildings, complex sightlines, and potential for civilian presence. The pre-deployment briefing highlighted the operation's particular challenges. The primary observation position offers limited visibility to the main entrance, Lieutenant Foster explained to the assembled team. Standard approach would be to position additional shooters for complete coverage, but the location doesn't allow for optimal secondary positions. "I've been analyzing alternative approaches," Maya offered, indicating the tactical schematics. "If we utilize the northwestern position instead, we can establish a single observation point that covers both the main entrance and the secondary access point. That position has significant disadvantages," Officer Ramirez pointed out. "Limited stability support, exposure to variable wind conditions, and required shooting across multiple depth planes. Those are disadvantages for conventional techniques," Maya acknowledged. "But they're manageable with my approach. The variable conditions actually provide more consistent pattern recognition opportunities than static conditions would." The team discussion that followed represented a fundamental shift in tactical planning. Rather than working around Maya's unique approach as an exception, the unit was beginning to incorporate her methodology as an alternative option that expanded their capabilities. Captain Reeves approved the unconventional plan after thorough review. "Chun's approach gives us tactical options we wouldn't otherwise have," he concluded. "That's an operational advantage we'd be foolish to ignore." The operation itself unfolded with textbook precision. Maya's position provided the comprehensive coverage she had predicted, allowing the tactical team to execute their entry plan with complete situational awareness. The suspects were apprehended without incident, and a significant weapons cache was secured. During the post-operation debrief, Captain Reeves highlighted the strategic implications. "Today's operation demonstrated the practical advantages of integrating alternative methodologies into our tactical planning. Officer Chun's position wouldn't have been viable using conventional approaches, but it proved ideal for her specialized technique." This successful deployment accelerated interest in Maya's methodology beyond the tactical unit. Training divisions from other departments began requesting information about the Tien technique, as it had been informally dubbed. The department's medical division initiated a study of applications for officers recovering from injuries or managing chronic conditions. 3 months after joining the unit, Maya found herself in an unexpected position, not just practicing her methodology but teaching it to others. The department established a specialized training program for selected officers, with Maya as the primary instructor working alongside Dr. Reynolds. "The fundamental principle isn't about my specific condition," she explained to her first class of students, a diverse group that included officers recovering from injuries, those dealing with stress-induced stability issues, and tactical specialists interested in expanding their skills. "It's about working with your body's natural patterns rather than fighting against them." The training program evolved rapidly as students applied the principles to their own unique situations. An officer recovering from shoulder surgery developed variations that accommodated his limited range of motion. A tactical specialist discovered applications for extreme environmental conditions where conventional stability was impossible to maintain. "What we're really teaching is adaptive precision," Dr. Reynolds observed during a program evaluation. Officer Chun's specific technique is just one application of a broader principle, finding precision through pattern recognition and timing rather than static stability. 4 months into her tenure with the tactical unit, Maya faced a different kind of challenge when Dr. Williams requested a formal follow-up evaluation of her condition. "Your recent operational tempo is concerning from a medical perspective," the neurologist explained during their meeting. "Sustained stress and irregular scheduling can exacerbate essential tremor symptoms. I'm seeing indications of increased amplitude in your recent telemetry." Maya acknowledged the observation. "The symptoms have intensified somewhat, but my performance metrics have remained consistent. I've adapted my approach to accommodate the changes." Dr. Williams studied her data with professional concern. "Maya, I understand and respect what you've accomplished. But medically speaking, you're operating beyond sustainable parameters. Without intervention, you risk progressive symptom intensification that could eventually exceed your adaptive capacity." The conversation represented a familiar conflict between medical protocols and operational realities. Dr. Williams recommended a reduced deployment schedule and increased medication, while Maya advocated for continued full operational status with enhanced monitoring. Captain Reeves ultimately mediated a compromise. Maya would maintain operational status, but with additional medical monitoring and mandatory recovery periods after high-stress deployments. More significantly, she would accelerate the training program to ensure her methodology could be effectively transferred to others. "Your approach is too valuable to risk losing," Reeves explained pragmatically. "We need to ensure it becomes institutionalized knowledge rather than depending solely on your individual implementation." This decision marked another evolutionary step in how the department viewed Maya's contribution. Her value wasn't just as an exceptional tactical officer, but as the developer of a methodology that could transform capabilities across the organization. 5 months after joining the unit, Maya faced her greatest challenge yet during an unexpected crisis situation. A powerful storm system had damaged the Westbrook River Bridge, leaving a school bus precariously balanced on the damaged structure with 28 children trapped inside. Conventional rescue approaches were deemed too dangerous given the bridge's instability. The tactical response team was deployed to assist with a high-risk extraction plan. The bus was wedged against a damaged section of guardrail, its front end hanging partially over the river below. The structural engineering team determined that the critical weakness was a specific connector point. If it failed, the entire section would collapse. "We need to stabilize that connection point before attempting extraction," the lead engineer explained during the hasty planning session. "But the location makes traditional approaches impossible." The plan that emerged was unprecedented. A precision shot could deliver a specialized stabilization bolt directly into the compromised connector, providing temporary enforcement until the children could be safely extracted. The shot would need to thread between multiple structural elements, striking a target area less than 2 inches in diameter from a distance of nearly 400 yards. The wind conditions alone make this nearly impossible, Officer Davis assessed grimly. Add the structural interference and specific target requirements. I wouldn't give this better than a 20% chance of success. Maya studied the structural diagrams carefully, mentally calculating trajectories and variables. I can make this shot, she said quietly. The structural elements create a pattern of interference that's actually highly predictable. With my approach, I can synchronize timing to deliver the bolt precisely where it's needed. Captain Reeves weighed the options with the incident commander. The risks were enormous. A failed attempt could potentially worsen the structural damage. But the alternative was waiting for specialized equipment that might not arrive in time. "Chun, this is beyond anything you've attempted operationally," Reeves noted. "Even with your methodology, the variables are extreme." "The principles remain the same," Maya insisted. "Complex variables create patterns. Patterns can be anticipated. Precision comes from synchronization, not elimination of movement." The decision was made. Maya would attempt the shot while extraction teams prepared alternative approaches in case of failure. The specialized bolt, essentially a modified projectile with expansion capability, was loaded and calibrated. Maya positioned herself at the determined firing point, her hands visibly trembling as she prepared her equipment. Dr. Reynolds monitored her telemetry remotely. Her readings show elevated stress markers, but her tremor pattern remains consistent. If anyone can make this shot, it's Chun. Maya focused intensely as she studied the target area through her scope. The damaged connector was barely visible among the twisted metal of the bridge structure. Wind gusts created visible movement in the surrounding debris. The bus itself shifted slightly with each gust, changing the alignment of structural elements. To an observer, these conditions would seem impossibly chaotic. To Maya, they represented a complex but discernible pattern: wind gusts at predictable intervals, structural shifts in response to those gusts, momentary alignments of the target area as various elements moved in their established patterns. "I have pattern recognition," she reported calmly. "Primary wind cycle is 8, 3 seconds with secondary harmonic at 4.6. Structural response lag is approximately 1-2 seconds. Target visibility occurs at predictable intervals within this cycle." The command post acknowledged, maintaining communications. Silence to allow her complete concentration. Around her, tactical team members watched with tense anticipation as Maya worked through her methodical process. Unlike conventional shooters who sought perfect stability before taking a shot, Maya moved with the chaos around her, her trembling hands becoming part of the integrated system she was tracking. She didn't fight the wind or her body's movement. She incorporated them, finding the harmonics between her own physiological pattern and the environmental conditions. "Executing in 10 seconds, she announced, her voice remarkably steady despite the enormous pressure. The shot, when it came, seemed almost anticlimactic, a single precise moment when Maya pressed the trigger as part of a fluid continuous movement. The specialized bolt traveled through the narrow path between structural elements, striking the connector point with perfect precision and expanding to create the needed stabilization. "Direct hit," confirmed the structural team's observer. "Connector is stabilized, beginning extraction operations." The rescue unfolded rapidly after that critical moment. Tactical team members created a safe extraction path, and all 28 children were removed from the bus without injury. By the time the specialized equipment arrived, the crisis was already resolved. The aftermath brought unexpected public attention. Despite department efforts to maintain operational security, media outlets identified Maya as the officer who made the crucial shot. Her story, the dispatcher with essential tremor who became a tactical precision specialist, captured public imagination in ways no one had anticipated. Chief Wilson addressed the unexpected publicity during the command staff meeting. Officer Chun's actions and her broader contribution to department capabilities represent a compelling narrative about overcoming perceived limitations. While we need to maintain appropriate operational security, there's also value in sharing this story more broadly. The department's Public Affairs Division developed a carefully managed approach that balanced operational security with the opportunity to change public perceptions. Maya's methodology was presented as an innovative tactical development without compromising specific operational details. Her personal journey became a powerful example of the department's commitment to recognizing and developing talent, regardless of conventional parameters. 6 months after joining the tactical unit, Maya found herself in yet another unexpected role, briefing a national conference of law enforcement, training specialists about her methodology and its applications. The Chun technique fundamentally challenges conventional approaches to precision shooting, introduced Dr. Reynolds to the assembled specialists. Rather than focusing on minimizing variables, it teaches operators to recognize patterns within complex, dynamic conditions and achieve precision through synchronization rather than elimination of movement. Maya's presentation was technical and specific, focusing on the methodology's principles rather than her personal journey. She demonstrated key elements, explained the underlying science, and presented case studies of various applications developed by officers who had completed the training program. The most significant aspect of this approach isn't its application to essential tremor or similar conditions, she explained. It's the broader principle of finding precision within apparent chaos rather than requiring artificial stability. This has applications across numerous operational scenarios where conventional approaches are compromised by environmental conditions, time constraints, or other limiting factors. The response was overwhelming. Departments across the country requested training assistance. Equipment manufacturers expressed interest in developing specialized tools based on the methodology's principles. Research institutions proposed studies to explore applications beyond law enforcement contexts. 7 months after joining the tactical unit, Maya's journey came full circle when she returned to Central Dispatch for a specialized training session with emergency communications personnel. Many of the principles we've developed have direct applications to dispatch operations, she explained to the assembled team, her former colleagues who had once known her only as the quiet dispatcher with shaky hands. Pattern recognition within complex information flows, synchronized response timing, and adaptive processing under stress all translate directly to communications management. The dispatch team, initially skeptical, quickly recognized the practical applications. Maya's experience in both worlds allowed her to bridge contexts that traditionally operated separately, creating integrated approaches that enhanced overall emergency response capabilities. Director Martinez, who had initially questioned Maya's tactical aspirations, acknowledged the broader implications. Officer Chun hasn't just developed new capabilities for herself. She's creating connections between operational divisions that have traditionally functioned in isolation. The resulting integration is improving our entire emergency response system. 8 months after joining the tactical unit, Maya faced a different kind of challenge when Captain Reeves approached her with an unexpected proposal. The department is establishing a specialized adaptive tactics division, he explained. It will focus on developing unconventional approaches for situations where traditional tactics are compromised or ineffective. We want you to lead it. The proposal represented both an extraordinary opportunity and a significant change. Leading the new division would mean stepping back from regular tactical deployments to focus on training, research, and methodology development. You've proven yourself operationally, Reeves continued. But your greatest value to the department isn't as a single tactical officer. It's as the architect of an entirely new approach that expands our capabilities across multiple domains. Maya considered the proposal carefully, weighing her love of operational deployment against the broader impact she could have in the new role. Would I still maintain tactical qualification? Absolutely, Reeves confirmed. You'd deploy selectively for situations that specifically require your expertise. But your primary focus would be developing the program and training others. After consultation with Melissa, Dr. Williams, and others who had supported her journey, Maya accepted the position. The Adaptive Tactics Division was formally established with a mission to develop unconventional approaches for challenging operational scenarios across all department divisions. 9 months after joining the tactical unit, Maya stood before the first comprehensive class of the Adaptive Tactics program, a diverse group that included officers from multiple divisions, dispatchers, medical personnel, and technical specialists. Each of you brings unique perspectives and challenges to this program, she began. Some of you have physical conditions similar to mine. Others are dealing with operational limitations or specialized scenarios that conventional approaches can't adequately address. All of you share one characteristic. You've encountered situations where standard methods were insufficient. She activated the training room's display, showing footage from various operations where her methodology had been successfully applied. The fundamental principle that unites all these examples isn't about specific techniques. It's about a mindset. Shift from seeing limitations as obstacles to recognizing them as opportunities for innovation. My tremor wasn't something to overcome. It was a pattern I could integrate into a more effective approach. The class represented the institutionalization of what had begun as one officer's adaptation to a personal challenge. Maya's methodology had evolved from an individual technique to a formal program with department-wide applications and national recognition. As she guided the class through their first training module, Maya reflected on the journey that had brought her to this point. From the dispatcher with shaky hands who volunteered for sniper training despite universal skepticism, to the tactical officer who made the impossible shot that saved a city, to the program director developing capabilities that would save countless lives in the future. Her mother's journal now sat on her office desk alongside technical manuals and training protocols she had developed. Inside, she had added her own entries documenting each step of the journey. The most recent entry captured the essence of what she had learned, and now taught others. True precision isn't found in perfect stillness or ideal conditions. It's found in understanding patterns within chaos, in synchronizing with forces you cannot eliminate, and in transforming apparent limitations into unexpected capabilities. The tremor that everyone saw as my greatest weakness became the foundation of my greatest strength, not because I overcame it, but because I embraced it as part of a larger pattern. Sometimes the most powerful solutions don't come from eliminating problems, but from seeing them differently. The Adaptive Tactics Division would continue to evolve, developing new applications and approaches that expanded the boundaries of what was considered possible. But its core principle would remain unchanged, the understanding that limitations viewed from a different perspective often reveal capabilities that conventional approaches could never discover. In that transformation of perspective lay not just tactical innovation, but a profound lesson about human potential that extended far beyond law enforcement contexts. Maya Chun's journey from shaky hands to the officer who made the shot that saved a city had become something larger, a demonstration that the characteristics we perceive as weaknesses often contain the seeds of extraordinary strength, if only we have the courage to develop them differently. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe. And turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.